What is going on, everybody? James Hancock here, and back to review The Whale, starring Brendan Fraser, Sadie Sink, Hong Chow, Ty Simpkins, and Samantha Morton. And the movie's based on a 2012 play of the same name by writer Samuel D. Hunter, who also wrote the screenplay adaptation for director Darren Aronofsky. And I have to admit that I've struggled a bit with this review, where I've recorded it a few times and then deleted it. And that's usually a sign of two things. First and foremost, what I was saying was really boring and uninteresting, and I don't feel like posting it to YouTube. But also, I think I was beating around the bush and not saying what I really wanted to say, where I have a problem criticizing movies by directors that I'm rooting for or who I want to see do well, because at a certain time, Darren Aronofsky was making some of the most stylish and kind of shocking and provocative and entertaining movies in American cinema, movies like Requiem for a Dream, The Wrestler, and Black Swan, all of which I saw multiple times in the theater and I really enjoyed. But I think there are a lot of alarming signs now that Darren Aronofsky is turning into one of our most pretentious, just awful filmmakers alive today, where between The Fountain, Noah, Mother, and this, I think now I've reached a turning point where I no longer consider myself a fan of Darren Aronofsky. And he should be thanking Brendan Fraser with every ounce of his being, because if not for Brendan Fraser's astonishing performance, like a real soul-searching, soul-bearing performance, I think this movie would be unwatchable. And a lot of those problems stem from the play, and which reminded me a little bit of like really pretentious high school theater students who take themselves way too seriously. I didn't like the story of this movie at all. And I think if we're being totally honest, people are not going to watch this movie because they want to see a movie about a father reconnecting with his estranged daughter or talking about his problems with his ex-wife. People want to see Brendan Fraser in the fat suit, struggling with the daily trials and tribulations of being a morbidly obese person who is staring death in the face. If anything, the movie's an exploitation film, almost like an early 70s exploitation film. And some people I know are calling it like fat phobic, a word which I don't even really know what the fuck that word even means. But I will be the first to admit that the reason I saw this movie and the reason that I could not take my eyes off this movie is because it is almost like a monster movie watching Brendan Fraser with a belly that's covered in like bruises and lumps hanging down to his fucking knees as he's trying to shower, or as he's trying to masturbate to his favorite gay porn, or as he's shoveling food in his face. The way he eats in this movie, it reminds me a little bit of like when you have a dog that's really hungry and you put food in their bowl and you try to yank it away from them, and they're just trying to eat it as quickly as humanly possible. I mean, we see him nearly die choking on his food just because when he eats by like the fistful. He doesn't chew his food. He just inhales his food. It's a total spectacle. And I think the reason a lot of people have reacted negatively to this movie is that the actual play itself, or the story itself, for me, doesn't work at all dramatically. Sadie Sink is an incredibly intense young actress. She's a very passionate young actress, and obviously she's a pretty young television star from Stranger Things. But we're basically told over and over again that she's a societal outcast and that nobody likes her and that she has no friends. And I'm just like, in what world would Sadie Sink not do well in high school? If anything, she would be like an apex predator, like one of the girls in Mean Girls that all the other girls look up to. I just refuse to accept that somehow this is like the poor, blighted child who has no friends. But also we're forced to accept the idea that she's amazing, as Brendan Fraser says over and over and over again throughout the whole movie, even though the character's mother, played by Samantha Morton, gives us all these examples of the absolutely reprehensible, horrible, bordering on evil behavior that she indulges in on a daily basis. And it gets incredibly frustrating when you're watching a movie about a child who basically, her most endearing trait is that she's constantly slamming doors and acting like a spoiled brat, that somehow we're forced to accept the idea that you're amazing. And it's like, please stop saying that. He says it like 50,000 fucking times. The play reminds me of some of the most annoying traits of so-called theater kids that I knew in high school. And I used to love to participate in high school plays. I would work in the tech crew. I would play saxophone in the pit band. I would occasionally be an extra. I'd even do a teeny bit of, acting. I was a terrible actor, but I would play some small roles. But I worked on a lot of high school plays. And we all know those theater kids who take things a little bit too seriously, where they're a little melodramatic or they oversell things. And there's certain dramatic devices that this movie uses that remind me of really annoying theater kids. Like Brendan Fraser's character, his entire life is lived through his laptop because he teaches online courses to college kids. He always turns his camera off, but he teaches creative writing. He's teaching kids how to write persuasively and clearly and honestly. But throughout this movie, anytime somebody wants to add dramatic effect to whatever they just said, they slam that laptop shut. And it's fine the first time, maybe it's fine the second time, but after like 12 times, it gets incredibly annoying where if Brendan Fraser is getting mad, he's slamming it shut. Or if the person looking after him, played by Hong Chow, gets mad at him, she slams the laptop shut. And at a certain point, you just want to say, like, break a glass, like knock over a lamp, do something else, but stop slamming the laptop shut. I think this movie is going to rapidly become the poster child for what to avoid when adapting a play into a movie. And obviously, theater and movies are two different mediums, and when people refer to something as being stagey, they're not using the word in a flattering way. In The Whale, it's just stagey with a capital S, but it does have scenes where you cannot take your eyes off what you're watching. But I get why Darren Aronofsky would use this play as a way of kind of staging a bit of a comeback, because it's inexpensive to produce, it relies heavily upon the performances of the actors, and you roll the dice. If it comes up 7, boom. You're talking Oscars, you're talking awards, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Brendan Fraser wins a whole bunch of awards. He's just a very likable screen persona in a lot of ways. I mean, going back to movies like Airheads, when he had long hair and was tall, lean, and hot, etc., and so forth, you know, joking about how he used to be a geek playing D&D, or people who love him from those Mummy movies. I mean, he was an action hero for a while. This is definitely the role that's been the biggest reach for him so far, and he absolutely 100% delivers. I just wish I liked the writing more, but the more I think about the movie, the more I try to describe my reaction to it, the more I realize I just fucking hated The Whale. And I think if I'm being totally honest, I'm starting to hate Darren Aronofsky as a filmmaker, and I guess maybe 3 strikes you're out, but maybe I wouldn't feel quite so passionately if I hadn't been so enthralled by some of his earlier work. But goddamn, for the last 10 years, being a Darren Aronofsky fan has been incredibly frustrating, and I do think A24 is the perfect home for him. I feel like if he keeps his budget small and doesn't go completely bananas like he did with Noah, maybe he can return to form at some point. And yeah, A24, I mean, at this point, they're the most trusted brand in entertainment for me when it comes to movies. Neon would be a close second. I mean, Neon had an amazing year with movies like Moon Age Daydream and Crimes of the Future, but A24, I think I saw like 10 or 12 movies by A24 this year. It's kind of nuts just how many interesting movies they put out per year. And so I hate to speak ill of A24 or any movies that they're putting out, but I really can't recommend that people go to the theater and put down money and sit there for a couple hours and endure this unless you just want to see the sideshow of Brendan Fraser in the fat suit. And I do think a lot of people will be totally mesmerized by every aspect of his daily life. But that's all prosthetics and performance. What this movie is missing are all those like signature scenes that'll get you coming back for more, or scenes where when you walk out of the theater, you're going to call all your friends and family members and be like, oh my God, I just saw the craziest fucking movie. You got to check it out, which is exactly how I felt after Requiem for a Dream, The Wrestler, and Black Swan. In a lot of ways, this movie is just kind of a piss-poor remake of The Wrestler, where you've got somebody staring death in the face in a matter of days, and they're dealing with all these physical obstacles. In one case, a wrestler whose body's been torn to pieces from abuse and drugs, etc. And here you have somebody who's just quite literally eating themselves to death. But The Wrestler had so many scenes that were just exhilarating and moving and shocking to watch. And this movie has none of those. With this movie, I'm absolutely going to be one and done. I will never watch it again. And I flirted with the idea of not reviewing this movie at all. Like the old expression goes, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. But in the end, I decided that's kind of chicken shit. Don't be afraid to criticize your filmmaking heroes, especially when they have very clearly gone into a state of creative decline. I just feel like Darren Aronofsky takes himself way too goddamn seriously. He's forgotten how to entertain and thrill his audience, and he's just attracted to really lousy material. Yeah, I can't say it enough. I really fucking hated the story, the script, the characters. The main attraction is Brendan Fraser in the suit, going through his struggles. So if you want to see that, definitely check it out. But if you live an hour away from a specialty theater and you have to spend $25 on your ticket and you have to spend $50 on a babysitter, like, save your money. There are better ways to spend your time. But I think it's time to wrap up this video because it's almost kind of humiliating and embarrassing when I allow myself to get this like upset or undone by a disappointing movie-going experience. It's almost like, who gives a shit? A filmmaker who used to be good is no longer good. The world will continue to turn on its axis and life goes on. But before I go, because it is the Christmas season, let me bring you a word from Manscaped, the official sponsor of my podcast, Wrong Reel. It's never too early to play holiday music, and it's never too early to start thinking about gifts. Whether it's for a friend or the friends in your pants, you can make this a season to be jolly with Manscaped. Do your little drummer boy a favor and use the Lawnmower 4.0 to avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Then add in Manscaped's top-of-the-line shower products to have the people thinking, all I want for Christmas is you. Santa cares about his sack, and so should you. Look nice when you get naughty by going to manscaped.com and using the discount code WRONGREEL in all caps for free shipping and 20% off. Inside, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. Think of it as the perfect package for your package. So if you enjoy this channel, or if you enjoy my podcast, Wrong Reel, consider making a last-minute purchase over at Manscaped to support my various commentary endeavors, because I can't continue to bring you little temper tantrums like my review of The Whale unless I receive the occasional financial support. But thank you so much for listening to this emotional outburst masquerading as a review. And if you completely, totally disagree, you will not upset me in any way, shape, or form. I don't know why I had such a strange reaction to this movie. It's just been a weird day all around. But if you enjoyed the video, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell. But more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.